The environment right now is unlike anything I've seen in my time as an adult, where we are overwhelmingly, i.e., the Democrats are overwhelmingly um, like there's way more of them than us. So here is Texas Civics 101. There are 150 people in the House. In order to get a bill passed, you've got to have half, which is 76. So I need 76 people to vote on my bill to get it out of the House. Then it will go over to the Senate where there are 31 people, and you've got to get a majority there. So you need 16 of the 31 to vote for something. And then if they agree on the exact words of the bill, then it'll go to the governor for signature. Republicans tend not to want to appear soft on crime. So they don't even like to expunge records of innocent people because it could potentially be used against them to say they're soft on crime. So there's only 62 Democrats. And I told you that in order to pass a bill, I need 76. So I literally have to go find 14 Republicans to vote with me, which in this super politicized climate after Donald Trump, that's hard. So I've got to try to find things in common with people that I probably ordinarily wouldn't even be friends with in order to try to get good Democratic bills passed. Am I doing that? Yes. Is it interesting? Yes. But all I'll say is sometimes politics makes strange bedfellows. So I'm hoping, even though I do anticipate that there will be some pushback, I can tell you that House Bill 463, the No Drugs Equals Expungement bill, came out of the committee yesterday, 9-2. So I got a number of Republicans on the committee to vote for it. 2 didn't. But all it takes is a majority. Now my bill will go to the House floor where I need to get 76 of my colleagues, including myself, to vote for it. So I'm working now. I'm trying to let them see the value of it. If they have a relative who gets a drug charge and there were no drugs, their records deserve to be expunged for free. And then I'm also working with a senator, Joan Huffman, who happens to be a Republican, who is actually, no, I'm not. I'm working with one of the Democratic senators on this bill, but I'm going to go speak with Republican senators because I don't know how many, there aren't a lot of Democrats in the Senate. So I've literally got to go talk to Republican senators and say, hey, please, this is a good bill. It's good for public policy. Innocent people should not have records for what they're actually innocent of. And I'm begging you for your support. Hopefully I will get that. Hopefully it will go to the governor's desk and he will sign it. So I'm working really hard, but I'm doing what I need to do to try to get good legislation passed. HB 463 does. And I call it the No Drugs Equals Expungement bill. In a nutshell, here's my bill. Whether it is pretrial, which means you've been charged, arrested, and either you're on bond or you're locked up, or whether it's post-conviction. Let's say you pled guilty to a drug charge. It says only as it relates to drug charges. And let me be clear, some people will plead guilty to a case that they're not actually guilty of to get out of jail quicker. So whether it's pretrial and you haven't been convicted yet, and you either locked up or on bond, or it's post-trial, you have been convicted, if a lab comes back for the drugs that you are currently awaiting trial on or that you pled guilty to, if the lab comes back and it says there are no drugs, if it is pretrial, before you've been convicted, your case gets dismissed and your records get expunged. And if you have already pled guilty to a case where the lab from DPS comes back and it says there are no drugs, you're entitled to an expungement because you never should have been charged and convicted anyway. That's what House Bill 463 says. And so you said only after dismissal. No, It's whether you've been convicted or not, whether it's before you get convicted or after. If there were no drugs, you should not have an arrest on your record, a conviction on your record for a drug case when there were not drugs. This is an exoneration, a free exoneration. That's important. So a person in this instance literally does not have to pay for the expunction because expunctions cost thousands and thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah.
So this is actually an expunction of records of actually innocent people. I mean, obviously the people that are having these the most are Black people and Hispanic people, and we're over incarcerated based on our percentage of the population. And so, with a drug conviction, with any kind of conviction, with anything on your record, even an arrest for something, which is why expunction is so important, because expunction even gets rid of the record of you even being arrested for something. It's hard to get housing, it's hard to get a job, it's hard to qualify for government services that you might need. It negatively affects families, it stigmatizes families. And so it's an effort, and I don't even want to call it second chance, because to need a second chance, you have to have messed up the first time. This bill is not even something that you messed up on. That's why it's free, because I'm wanting the state to take responsibility for arresting and charging and potentially convicting somebody for something they literally did not do. So it will help lower the mass incarceration of Black and brown people. So let me be clear. I served on the Houston Independent School District School Board. I was elected. I was not appointed by the governor.
Yes.
Not a kangaroo court. I fought against TEA and their takeover of HISD when I was on the HISD school board, and I fight against vouchers. Vouchers are bad. They are a scam. Vouchers will take my public dollars and put them into private school. Vouchers will not pay for private school, because I don't know of any private school that costs $10,000. Maybe some Catholic schools, but there are not enough private schools in existence in Texas to take in, for example, in the Houston area, there are not enough private schools to take up the 189,000 HISD students. So when a parent decides to take their child out of public school and put them into a private school, the money follows the child. So whatever money the neighborhood school is going to get for me going there, they lose it. So if enough kids leave the school, there literally will not be enough money to run the schools, and they will destroy the neighborhood school. But I will also say this to you, that if you look at the Imani school, which I heard the tuition there is about $28,000, $10,000 ain't, that's Ebonics, y'all. 28,000. So assuming you get the $10,000 to offset to 18,000, where you gonna get to 18,000 from? And private school does not provide school buses to pick you up. Private school they do not have to feed you. Private schools, if you have kids with special needs, private schools do not deal with special needs. What about kids who are nonverbal, right? What about kids who are bedridden? What about kids who need to have diapers changed? Private schools don't have to take those kids. The beautiful thing about public schools is whatever child you drop off at the door of a public school, the public school has to take them, it has to accommodate them and educate them. So this really isn't a thing about school choice, because the choice goes to the private school about whether they want to accept your child. And again, I don't know of any really respected private schools that cost $10,000. So it's a hoodwink and bamboozle, and something else that people seem to think. People think, oh, I'm going to get $10,000 in my pocket. No, you are not. You are going to get a voucher, and you go to the private school, and that $10,000 credit, for lack of a better word, is applied to the fee. What about school uniforms? Can you afford those? What about extracurricular activities? Can you afford that? Who's going to get your kids to school? If you have a job where you can miss your job to get your kid to school, I respectfully disagree. And most importantly, private schools do not have to have certified teachers. And I don't know about you, but I want my son, my daughter, my grandkids, or actually I only have a son, and he just gave me a granddaughter. But I want them taught by certified teachers. So you should know that I am vice chair of juvenile justice, which is a subcommittee of criminal jurisprudence. So juvenile justice is important to me, because if we mess up with kids, they're going to be screwed up adults. And it's just easier to invest in healthy, productive children. And it's way more expensive to try to fix broken grown-ups who generally were broken kids. and it focuses on revising parole guidelines and procedures for inmates convicted of offenses committed when they were 18 or younger. So it uh, develops a specialized parole guideline. If you know, there have been studies that show that brain development in young people is not where it needs to be until they're at least 25. So, I mean, it's sort of like young kids do bonehead stuff. And sometimes that bonehead stuff is labeled criminal. But most kids, by the time they turn 25, are making better decisions. They're not doing the dumb stuff they did when they were younger. And I want to take that into consideration. So again, it establishes specific parole procedures and reporting. So, and not it's more focused on rehabilitation rather than punishing you, right? So if a kid gets in trouble, I think to punish the kid, if a kid does something that they're not supposed to do, to just punish them for the sake of punishing them because you did something wrong doesn't necessarily modify behavior. And if there's no reward for learning from your behavior, then why would I learn from it? It doesn't make any sense. If I give you incentives, right, like maybe you can end your parole early, or if you participate in these programs like effective decision making or complete anger management classes, or if you're a young parent and you take parenting classes so that you're not yelling at your kid and you're doing positive reinforcement, then you should be learning things. And you think that some people are being taught things. Some people just aren't taught things. And so if the kids are in the juvenile justice system where we actually have their bodies, control of their bodies, or control of their time by way of them being on parole, then why wouldn't we use that connection that they have to have with us to make sure they come out better at the end of that procedure than when they went in? So that's why. Because when kids, if we don't teach our kids what we need to know, I will represent them as adults for sure. And if I'm representing them, they are getting in trouble and they are facing prison. And to the extent I can help modify that behavior, then I am happy to do it.